It was a crisp December morning in Minneapolis, 2024. The streets buzzed with the usual weekday routine. Commuters in their cars, executives making their way into offices, coffee in hand, heads down against the chill. Among them was Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, the largest health insurance provider in the United States. He was known for his sharp business acumen, but also for his role in an industry many criticize for putting profits over people's well-being. Brian arrived at the company's headquarters just before 8:15 a.m., parking in his reserved spot in the executive lot. It was his routine, early mornings, long days. But this morning would be his last. As he stepped out of his car and turned to grab his briefcase, a figure approached from the shadows. Dressed in dark clothing, a beanie pulled low, a surgical mask covering most of his face, the man walked with purpose, his hand tucked into his coat pocket. Brian barely had time to register the movement before 3 shots rang out. One bullet struck him squarely in the chest. He staggered backward, gasping. Another bullet followed almost instantly, aimed precisely at his heart. The third and final shot was to the head. Brian crumpled to the asphalt, his coffee spilling beside him, his life extinguished in mere seconds. The shooter didn't run. He walked away calmly, weaving into the early morning crowd, disappearing within minutes. By the time the first bystanders rushed over and called 911, he was gone. The Minneapolis Police Department arrived quickly, sealing off the parking lot, but the damage was done. News spread like wildfire. The CEO of UnitedHealthcare gunned down in broad daylight. The FBI was brought in within hours, given the high-profile nature of the victim and the potential for broader motives, corporate, political, or worse. The investigation began with the basics. Surveillance footage from the parking lot captured grainy images of the assailant. He moved with calculated steps, head down, his face obscured by a mask and the brim of his beanie. No clear facial features, no license plate, no getaway vehicle identified, but investigators noticed something else: the precision of the attack. The shots were placed perfectly, 2 to the chest, 1 to the head. This wasn't random violence. This was a planned execution. As agents scoured the scene, gathering shell casings and dusting for fingerprints, the killer stayed silent until 2 days later. An email arrived in the inboxes of several major news outlets, including CNN and Reuters. It read, "This was no random act. This was justice. Healthcare is not a commodity. Blood must be shed to awaken the masses." Attached was a quote from the infamous Unabomber manifesto, written by Ted Kaczynski, a domestic terrorist who waged a mail bombing campaign against modern technology and industrial society in the 1990s. The comparison was chilling. The FBI's cybercrime unit sprang into action, tracing the IP address from which the email was sent. It led to a public Wi-Fi hotspot at a coffee shop in Chicago. Surveillance cameras there had captured footage of a young man dressed similarly to the suspect in Minneapolis. Dark clothes, head down, typing at a terminal. The man's name? Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old freelance software developer. Who was Luigi Mangione? Digging into his background, the FBI uncovered a trail of online posts across forums critical of the American healthcare system. Mangione had written angry diatribes about the greed of insurance companies, calling them murderers in suits. He referenced the Unabomber frequently, admiring Kaczynski's revolutionary spirit. Mangione had no prior criminal record, no history of violence. But beneath his quiet surface, a storm had been brewing for years. The FBI Chicago field office, working alongside Minneapolis agents, conducted surveillance on Mangione. For several days they followed him to the library, to cafes, walking home to his small, sparsely furnished apartment. On December 19th, they executed a search warrant. Inside Mangione's apartment, they found evidence that solidified their case: a Glock 19 pistol, recently cleaned; a burner phone used only once, the day before the murder; handwritten notes meticulously planning the route to the UnitedHealthcare headquarters; printouts of the Unabomber manifesto, annotated in the margins with phrases like, "Systemic change requires sacrifice." And the most damning piece, a journal entry, dated December 10th, 2024, that read, "In 2 days, I strike the heart of the machine. Brian Thompson will be the first." Mangione was arrested on the spot, charged with 4 federal counts: first-degree murder, premeditated murder, use of a firearm in a violent crime, and stalking with intent to kill. In custody, Mangione refused to speak. His lawyers argued that he suffered from antisocial personality disorder and was heavily influenced by extremist ideology. But the evidence was overwhelming. Ballistics confirmed that the Glock recovered from his apartment matched the bullets found at the scene. His burner phone pinged off towers near Minneapolis the morning of the murder. Even more damning, the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit determined that Mangione modeled his crime on Kaczynski's philosophy, seeing violence as a necessary trigger for social change. On April 17, 2025, the Department of Justice announced they would pursue the death penalty. Attorney General Pamela Bondi cited the cold-blooded nature of the crime, the targeting of a civilian for political reasons, and the chilling attempt to inspire terror as grounds for the ultimate punishment. The case drew national attention, reigniting debates over capital punishment and healthcare injustice. Supporters of Mangione, though few, argued that the system had created him, that his desperation was born from a broken healthcare model. But most saw him for what he was, a murderer, cloaking his hatred in ideology. As Mangione awaits trial, set for late 2025, his fate hangs in the balance. But one thing is certain. In the heart of America's healthcare empire, blood was shed and the system trembled. The question remains, was Luigi Mangione a madman or a man driven mad by the system? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more true crime stories that peel back the layers of human nature and justice.